Hey guys, thanks for checking out the latest episode of Lather Talk. Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a quick shout out to our newest patron, and that is Abraham. Thank you so much for your support of the show. If you guys want to find out how you can help support this podcast through our Patreon, just head over to www.patreon.com/lathertalk. Again, the link is www.patreon.com/lathertalk. You can also find the link in the description or in the show notes. There's absolutely no obligation to sign up, but if you have the means and the desire to help out the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Now for today's episode, we recorded this just before Halloween, so we'll talk a little bit about themed seasonal shaves. Also, we have friend of the show, Arvin Lucio, sitting in the third chair. He helps us moderate things on the Lather Talk Discord. And we actually get to talk about a few different topics, including current gear we're looking forward to using, as well as just a bigger topic of content creation. Now, without further delay, here's the latest episode. Hey guys, this is John, aka Latherhog, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lather Talk. With me, as always, is my handsome co-host, Gerard.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
And I do realize the irony of that introduction because we're experiencing some technical difficulties, but you can look at old episodes to see how handsome Gerard is.
You know, it is what it is, right?
If you got it, flaunt it.
We try our best.
Yes, we do. And we're trying to make do with it. And for listeners at home, viewers at home, thank you for bearing with us as these things happen. In this case, there's a kind of nasty storm. It's on its way out of the New England area, but it's kind of wreaked havoc on my internet connection. So we've had to go without video this time, but that's okay, Gerard, because we got some fun stuff to talk about. And listeners, we are hoping you'll come along for that ride. So first thing I actually want to share, and Gerard, I think we talked about this one episode before, and I forgot how it came up, but listeners of Lather Talk are coming from all over the globe. And just want to share some of those stats right now. So to no surprise, since both of us are based in the US, 70% of our listeners are in the United States. Then we've got 9% from our friends in North Canada. Third, 7%, the United Kingdom is showing representation right there. 3% from Australia, and then a whole collection of other countries kind of fall in that like 1% fraction of percent. So wherever you guys are listening from, we just want to thank you, and especially for like the English isn't your first language and you're still tuning into that, we really appreciate you and hope some of this stuff makes sense.
Definitely. No, thank you. Just might as well ask, John, what's like a surprising country that showed up on there that you're just like, wow, someone actually listened from, I don't know. Is there anyone from Djibouti on there?
Ooh. I'm scrolling because I mean it's pretty cool. I don't see Djibouti, unfortunately.
Oh, all right. So if there's any wet shavers in Djibouti, or if you know of any, you send them a link. Let's get that listener. I want 100% listener increase from the country of Djibouti on there.
And in general, we'd love to hear from where you guys are listening from, whether it's within the US or one of the many countries. Really, it's all over. Asia, Europe, Africa, the Caribbean. Like it's all over. So it's awesome just to see. That listeners, even if it's like one or two people from each country or each area, it's really cool. So, and also we actually have someone coming on in the third chair today just to join us to touch upon the topics that normally me and Jordan would catch up on, and that is Arvin Lucio. He is one of our moderators on the Lather Talk Discord. He's Rocket Vin on there, and let's bring him on right now, Gerard. We might be dealing with some technical issues today, so apologies ahead of time. But Arvin, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Hello, everybody.
I had the pleasure of meeting Arvin. I forgot if I mentioned this on the podcast. We met over the summer when I was visiting Hawaii, where my wife and all her family still live. So Arvin and I got to hang out. Our families got to meet up. I don't think, Gerard, you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Arvin in person yet, right?
No, not yet.
So first order of business, and Arvin, feel free to chime in.
Yeah.
This is just about upcoming releases, and this could be software, hardware, or whatever. I don't, just before we started rolling, Gerard and I were saying not too much is going on as far as releases, but there were a few that we wanted to note. What I wanted to plug was Noble Otter is bringing back Firefighter, which is a very, very, I think, crowd pleasing scent. It's a woody aquatic. I think based on customer demand, Noble Otter is bringing it back for another run, and so that'll come out November 4th, which is at the time of recording, that's next Thursday. Very likely it'll be the day that the podcast drops. So if you're listening to this on the drop day, November 4th is when Firefighter returns. And Gerard, you had a mention as well.
Yeah. So Southern Witchcrafts is going to be dropping Grapefruit 2. Last year, their collaboration with Australian Private Reserve with Grapefruit 1 was just a super success. And this year they're kind of releasing it through a different nose, a different different perfumer, in someone who was just on the podcast, Sean Mayer of Châtillon Luxe and Mayer Olfactive. He is, I guess you can say, the one taking his swing at that, the general tones of grapefruit. And so that will be releasing next Saturday, or I'm sorry, I guess from this release, it would be this Saturday, November 6th. And so I know that they were hoping on getting it out on Halloween, but I think they weren't feeling too well this week, so that kind of pushed things back a week. So yeah, November 6th, Grapefruit 2. It's probably going to be really good, and I have not smelled it, but I mean, I love the grapefruit 1, and so if that's something that is maybe up your alley, yeah, take a shot on it for sure.
Nice. And Arvin, was there anything that caught your eye? It's okay if there's not, but
for new releases, there's been quite a bit of buzz about Omnibus, and I see folks getting rid of their older bases. Like, shoot, I still have quite a bit of like reserve and classic, and they're still awesome performers. I think like I don't know, but I've seen guys who just replace it, or they'll stockpile right in the latest base. It's like maybe me 2 years ago would have done that, but I saw that release from Barrister Man. Was it Melange?
Melange.
Oh, yeah. To coincide with the release of the Dune film.
So that one caught my eye. I don't remember exactly what the notes were. I remember seeing some spicy notes. I don't know if either of you. I don't have a web page open to pull up what the scent description is.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that one caught my eye. I mean, I know.
I got it.
I know that Will was releasing already released scents. Like I know for the Fougere, both Gothique and Angelique, that got released in the Omnibus, and then a few of the, I guess would there be their classic or their standard line, right? Like Seville, and I think I saw.
They're I guess baseline, right? Or Lavanille, Lagan Chypre,
right.
Cheshire. What else is in there? Cologne Roofs, maybe. I don't know.
I think so. But the one that caught my eye was, Melange. So I love the original Dune film. I know it's a polarizing film, like diehard people who read the book, think it's an insult, right, to the story. But I enjoyed it, as a young boy, and I still do, right? It's a cult classic and favorite. But I did see uh the new version. I don't know if you guys did. We can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, me and my wife watched it this weekend as well. We loved it.
Yeah. We loved it too. My wife was a little lost, like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So I had to kind of explain. It's like, what did you say? It's like, yeah. But yeah, the pacing of it, it's like a lot different, right, than the original. I remember the original film, everything just kind of went along pretty quickly. But yeah, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I've never seen the original, the David Lynch, the 80s one, but I was because this new Dune film is split up into two parts, and they only just confirmed that a part two is definitely, it's like got the green light to go earlier this week. I did pick up the book, Arvin. I mean, and I, just in looking up, I didn't realize it's held in such high regard as far as science fiction novels go. So I'm looking
it's the OG.
So yeah, I do love me some sci-fi.
Yeah, man. Back in the day, I used to read the Star Wars novels, and my friends would make fun of me. This is during college. Like, haters. You should be studying, man. What are you doing? What are you doing reading Star Wars books? How old are you?
Oh, the extended universe? You're one of those?
Well, now it's Legends now, right?
Yes, so correct.
I did not watch.
People are gonna, I'm gonna get stabbed.
They're coming after
yeah.
you.
I don't know. I didn't watch any of the newer films. It just didn't appeal to me.
I can let you know right now, you're not missing out.
Yeah,
not
sure.
at all. With that said, so I am a Star Wars fan, but like last year during COVID, and I think I did mention this. All right, maybe I didn't. Like, but when my son was born, I was like at home and stuff like that. I ended up going through the animated series, Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. And yeah, for a quote unquote kid show or a cartoon show, it is very, like, I'd say, like, I think it's 7 seasons. By like season 2, 3, it gets like, yeah, very mature for a quote unquote cartoon show. And the cool part about it is if you're a fan of all that, if you're a fan of, Mandalorian and everything that's been released since on Disney Plus, I guess shout out to the mouse in the house. That, yeah, it's the same kind of the same showrunner, the same person, in terms of making sure the continuity is correct, the lore is correct, and the characters and everything they are where they're supposed to be. So yeah, it's great. And yeah, it's a good palate cleanser if you watch the sequel trilogy and the kind of the garbage fire that is.
Yeah.
Well, standalone, I think it's pretty awesome. I enjoyed it. I think the first, I can't remember if it had a different name, but the art was a lot more, I would say, I don't know, kind of an exaggerated style, and they kind of refined it, I guess, in the 3D version, right? Because the original was like 1D, like cell looking animation.
Yeah.
Right. And then they switched to the 3D, and yeah, it was amazing. I got drawn into it, and for a lot, not that I was super judgmental about the prequels, but it, in a way, yeah, kind of helped to save, the story. But yeah, standalone, good stuff, man. Even my wife, she's like totally into it, and she's not really into sci-fi, but she watched it from beginning to end and binge watched it because she loved it so much.
Solid character arcs. Before I forget, Gerard, did you say you had the set notes for Barrister and Man Melange?
Yes, and so the notes here, I'm just going to read it straight from the post, is that Melange is a sparklingly dry mineral combination of nutmeg, ginger, cardamom, cinnamon, pine, musk, and desert air. It is perfect for starting revolutions and overthrowing galactic empires, or for just heading out for a nice evening. So that Yeah, it was supposed to be released actually this week as we record this. However, because of supply chain issues with the labels, they're pushing it back tentatively, I think, a week until everything gets in and whatnot. So again, by the time you listen to this, hopefully it's out and everything like that. But that's definitely another one I think for people to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Arvin will have already ordered it by then.
But I was gonna say, he who controls the spice controls the universe. That's a Dune quote, by the way.
That is.
But I like early into the hobby, I was really big into like spicy accords, spicy orientals. So I really like some of the vintage scents like Old Spice. Yeah, I'm one of those guys that likes smelling like an old guy. So when I read the scent description of that one, I was like, ooh, that one looks right in my wheelhouse. I'm gonna have to, I'm just gonna stop putting it out there like I'm gonna spending freeze, because it really never happens. So it's just
spending traffic.
Spending traffic, yeah.
Wasn't that a little back and forth on the Discord where like first rule of spending freeze, you don't talk about spending freeze. Like just do it. Just do it, right? Yeah. Like once you say I'm on a spending freeze, you're gonna you're gonna immediately run into something that takes you off your spending freeze.
Absolutely, no, guilty. But spicy accords, spicy orientals. Speaking of spicy, the other release that I'm pretty excited about is from our friend Johnny from Lather, but I think it's pronounced Loafer. I don't know if that's a British English pronunciation, but yeah, Lather Grooming Namka. And I think that's also with that scent release, he's also doing Splash. So I'm pretty excited. I plan on getting a set of that too.
Nice. I believe that is. I think that's out already.
It's out already. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it's out in the UK, and US distributors should have it. So I'm quite excited about that. He did say he was heavily inspired by. I forget the scent name, but something by Diptyque. And the scent I was thinking of was Diptyque's Oud Palao.
Oud Palao? Palao?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the scent notes are oud, rose, and woody vanillic amber accords. That sounds quite nice. So. And the fact I totally forgot, Arvin, until you mentioned it, that that's the premiere of his Splash. So I've been pretty excited about trying that. So you might have just enabled me for both that one and Melange.
You're welcome.
Damn you.
Shave enablers of the world unite.
Arvin, were there? I mean, those are two great release, like one release and one upcoming release. And anything else you want to add to that list?
Software. Well, it's not a release, but it's I mentioned on the Discord earlier today, right? Sense we're looking forward to use, right? I don't know if you're going to talk about that now or later.
We'll get to that in just a little bit as far as Halloween themed stuff.
Yeah, it's new to me because I bought it last year, like after the season, and I'm saved it for this year. It's the Dr. John, like the kind of that propaganda like artwork. I forget the name of the artist.
But yeah, the Wolfman, the Mummy, that series.
Yeah, that series. So
I had. I don't know if I still have it. Victory or Death.
The Mummy.
I think mine was. I think it was Dracula. Wolfman. I think it was Wolfman. Okay. Not the Razor Company, but the Wolfman, right. The werewolf character. Shout out to James.
Yeah, but it was Onward to Victory, Victory or Death, and then Death and Glory. So
that's easy to mix up those.
Yeah, I was like, it was all a mush in my head. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, but fantastic artwork. And there was also a 3-part series they did years ago, which I still have, and the scents are okay, but some things we get for the artwork, which is kind of like a whole nother topic in itself, scent and artwork and all that's combined.
All right, so moving on to the next section here. And Arvin did briefly mention this. So we threw out a listener question onto the Discord and over to our patrons, and we asked, do you have a Halloween themed shave planned? And if so, what are you featuring? And I just wanted to note that some people shared their actual, what they have planned for the Halloween or All Hallows Eve, and some people like to kind of work their way up to and past Halloween. So they listed a few things that they're planning to use. First one comes from Jared over at Thirsty Badger Shave Company, and he said, I'll be using Razor Ruby Undead. Stupid label that only makes sense this time of year, even though the scent isn't really what I would call a Halloween scent. It's Roja Enigma. Featuring it in a scent of the day photo post looks stupid the rest of the year. So he's very, he wants to get that in as soon as he can. And then another entry here from Philip Tremblay. That's Phil over at the Canadian Mafia on Instagram. He said, Clown Fruit is the banger for me for the whole month of October.
Oh, man. Going full month is just, I'm just like, I will for sure get sick of it. I will get sick of it by the end of the week. Props to you who can go like a full month on the same thing. Because once you go, once you diversify your, I guess your shaving profile, your soap profile, your portfolio, then it's like tough to go back.
True, and I think it depends too on which soap you're using, right? So if it's a mildly scented soap, so something like, say, I don't know, what's that? Not Martin de Candra, not Prix de Provence. It's the other French one. Darn it. La Paire, right? La Paire Lucien. That's the one.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
That one, I actually managed to go a month with it. I thought exactly what you're saying, Gerard, where it's like, oh yeah, I mean, because I have like a ton of soaps, right? And depending on the whims or the moods, you kind of just go through whatever, right? But that one, I actually managed to make it through a month. I didn't post, and this is when I took a break from posting Shave of the Days, but yeah, it was very eye-opening, and it's possible to use only. And there was one soap, one brush, and one razor, just for that exercise to see, because I have so much. Do I really need? Obviously, we don't. Right? Nobody needs more than one brush, one soap, or one razor.
The answer is we don't need any of this, but we want most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're listening to a wet shaving podcast, chances are you're not a one brush, one razor kind of person. So, we got to read the room too, but more power to you though. Especially if you're listening and you're doing the one setup and you have like your Arco or I don't know, insert utilitarian soap, you're actually one of the few saving money doing this.
Yeah. I knew starting in, I would not be
one of those
doing this to save money. When I was using carts, I use that thing for like a month, even though it's dull, I would still use it. So I already knew the kind of person that I am when it comes to hobby. I kind of go all out. So it doesn't matter what hobby, whether it's collecting instruments or photography or, production gear, it's an instant abyss. Yeah. So I can see the earth's core, when I go into my hobby. So shaving, I already knew, which is why I sat on it for many years. I lurked for, on B&B for a while, but didn't jump in because I knew. But just to finish the thought though, as far as being able to use one soap, if it's a light kind of scented soap, doable. But anything else, like if it's like heavy or like spice or even woody, guarantee I would get sick of it. Like even what was that? You did that, right, Gerard? With was it Watch? Is it called? Is it Watchman? Right? Zingari.
Right? Zingari Man Watchman.
It's a nice scent, but I can see myself, getting fatigued by that one if I did it for over a week. I don't know how long you made it.
And it also makes sense, right? Like some of the really like heavy hitters, and isn't that funny? Like a lot of us almost prefer heavily scented soaps until we consistently use that heavily scented soap. And then, some of the lighter stuff, we're not offended by it, or we're not like you said, either fatigued or just, yeah, like where it's kind of like, I don't know, like binging, I guess, like, where we go on like a single scent binge, if you will. Yeah. Like, if I had to if I had to drink Malort, every day, for a month, or I'd probably never want to have it again. It's probably the same thing. I've offended everyone that loves Malort now.
Just to get through a few more, actually, two that came up a lot. Well, two Barrister and Man entries that came up quite a bit was Hallows, Right Away, Tonality, and Give Me Cake. Went right for Hallows. Fougere Gothique, I know, is another big selection. I think Arvin, you listed a few, and those two were on your list as well. In addition to the three from Dr. John's. One Past Ben. Another friend from Canada here. He said A&E cherry pie because it reminds me of the red candies / lollipops I'd get in my bag. George, do you want to read a few of these off? There's some choice ones. Whichever ones you care to.
I'm just like, I'm kind of going through other stuff. You had mentioned Flowers in the Dark. Some other people had mentioned Southern Witchcraft Samhain as well. Very appropriate for the season.
Yep.
Some other people had also mentioned Fougere Gothique from Barrister and Man. Great. It's definitely I would say I don't want to say love it or hate it, but it's kind of that thing. It's either you love it or it's not for you, because it just punches so hard, as well as Katie's Bubbles 322, which is also really, really nice. Very dark, super vetiver forward. Really, I don't know. Arvin, how would you describe 322? I have it.
322, it's, I would say it's definitely in the same vein as, I would say more Hallows than Fougere Gothique, but still related. But yeah, I would say, dirty vetiver, smoky. And I think I remember, was it currant? I think I remember there being kind of like a fruit note. I remember too, that's in there. Definitely not for the, for the faint. You're it's going to be one of those, you're either going to really like it or you're going to be like, if you don't like vetiver, you're not going to like that. And it kind of, I think we were talking in the Discord about, what was that one, Barrister Man one, Nocturne, right? So with that smoky note, right? It's like same, I think that's similar smoky note in Rome. So there is a smoky note in 322, and my wife does not like any smoky anything in any of the soaps I use. So I'll keep it, but now I'm starting to separate things on the side, stuff my wife doesn't like, and to make it easier, like things are smoky, it's kind of on my consider to chopping block list. But sorry, long response. What does it smell like? Like smoky, earthy, dirty vetiver, leaves, and that fruit note. I don't know. Does that sound about right to you guys?
It is blackcurrant.
Yeah, blackcurrant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very that Haitian vetiver that Chris Cullen likes using is very very dominant in that scent. One reply I liked was from Sloppy Badger, and he said Frankenlime only because it sounds Halloweeny.
So, that was a good one. Yeah, that made me laugh. It makes sense.
Yes.
Nothing to do with Halloween, but it has the artwork and the theme for sure.
If you like lime, you will like Frankenlime.
Great. I agree. Fantastic lime scent. Mm-hmm. And as for just to wrap up this section, have you guys planned what you're going to use for the actual on the 31st? I'm pretty sure I'm going with Hallows on the 31st.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
All right.
I don't know.
I just enjoy it too much. It's like I always look forward to this time. It for some reason, it'd be, knock me all you want, and all of us in Hawaii, because I guess the same applies to you, Gerard, right? Because you don't exactly have seasons, but at least you get the more temperature variance than we do.
Yeah.
But the moment it's not like 84 degrees, when it goes to 80, it's fall. All right, I can break out my fall scents. But no, like hollows, like this is how I get to experience the seasons, and I'm sure it'd be similar for you, Gerard. But we can kind of dress for the season, at least with colors and materials, and then for the scents, right? This is how I get to experience it, and I don't use hollows outside of the fall, or I'll kind of stretch it out into the winter time too. It's just super enjoyable. Love hollows.
Yeah, I have not made my call yet in terms of what I'm going to use. It will probably be a Southern Witchcraft scent. I like Hallows, but I think I sold it. I had it in Excelsior with the, I don't want to say cartoony label from a couple of years ago.
Cool. All right. Well, so by the time this airs, though, you will know what each of us have. Well, I mean, me and Arvin are pretty set on Hallows. Gerard will have made his.
It'll probably be Samhain from Southern Witchcraft, because I mean that is. Yeah, it will.
We won't hold you to it. It's not contractually binding for you to use that one. We'll
see. Maybe I'll just like toss a bunch of things into the air, and whatever lands in the circle will be the one that I'll use.
All right, so let's tackle the main thing we want to talk about today, and it's kind of a broad topic, but we want to talk a little bit about content creation. In particular, what does content creation look like in the wet shaving space? And this is something I think we kind of always touch upon at least a little bit, but we're hoping to kind of really, maybe really get into things, really chew on kind of the meta textual picture, what it looks like. And yeah, we'll kind of see where the conversation steers us as well. But I wanted to start us on the medium of YouTube and what shaving videos look like. So, and guys, obviously feel free to chime in here, because I think will all have slightly different takes on this. But from my observations as someone who makes wet shaving YouTube content, is that the current popular style is a vlog style, and that's where the most popular folks in the wet shaving space, you're tuning in daily, if not a few times a week. And it's not so much about the products that they're using, not always. It's more about the personality, though. And so we're talking about your Ken Surfs, Sinatra Lennon, and other folks. No disrespect to people who I'm not naming or anything like that, but that is the prominent style, and because that's what's really taken off, and I forget what the subscriber numbers are on those channels, but I think around like maybe 20K, which in the bigger picture, and this is the kind of thing when we compare it to the rest of YouTube, that's kind of small potatoes as far as YouTubers who are really big. But in our space, and wet shaving hobbyists, we are definitely in like a niche of a niche. So I think the reason, so those guys being the most popular, for everyone else trying their hand at YouTube and wanting to talk about wet shaving, it's going to look like theirs. I know I can't help but fall into that format as well, because it's easy to do. A lot of times people aren't even editing. I like to buck the trend there a little bit, add some music in the background, but really most of the time it's just someone capturing their whole shave, whether that be 10 minutes. Sometimes it's upwards to like 50, 60 minutes. I've seen some pretty long videos out there, and my personal thing is I don't know, I'd rather just watch TV if we're talking about like long programs like that. I tend to like because I think I have fragrance YouTube, or even like researching tech. It's the reviews that I was drawn to, and that's kind of who I stuck with. So early on, like Nick Shaves, was one I liked, and that's more educational. IMCDB and in all the different iterations did more reviews than some of the other guys I named. So I watched more of his content, and I think you wind up emulating the style of that which you like to consume, and that kind of makes sense. So. I'm curious, I guess, now that I've given that whole spiel, have you guys, do you agree with that take on it? And do either of you see the wet shaving YouTube space changing at all in the past year or two?
You gonna go first, Gerard?
You can go if you already have a thought.
Well, I have a bunch of thoughts. It's just getting it together. That's the tricky part. But
yeah,
I'll just to kind of what you went over, John, with what the trend has been, the names you mentioned. Definitely. I think all of us, who went on YouTube looking up shaving videos had to encounter, pretty much all of them, right? And there's some, new content creators, on YouTube, but they do follow that, vlog format with their camera, on the mirror on the shelf somewhere, and they talk through their shave. And I have different thoughts about it. I mean, that's what everyone's doing. So it gets a little, I'm not knocking at anybody, but it gets a little I'm not gonna be nice. It gets a little boring. So
yeah, no, that's fine. No need to pull punches, because
I subscribe to that. If you have nothing nice to say, but yeah, I mean, it gets monotonous, right? Because if everybody's doing it, how do you separate yourself from this? And of course, this is a question for the content creators. And of course, you're gonna have your loyal following. People who like you. They're gonna subscribe and watch your content because they like you, right? And which is great. And I have noticed that, John, you certainly have bucked that trend with your editing. With having B-roll and having different shots, and I find that really engaging. And it's not because we're friends or I help out with the Discord, but as someone who used to create and produce content, those are the things that definitely stood out in my eye, even before we knew each other. So just the fact that that you have that in place is why I enjoy your content, John, or content like that. And if I'm going to be watching anybody else, to be honest, it's because of the personal connection that I have with people in the community. Like Shave 326. He's relatively new, but he hit the ground running. But followed that same format, right? So shave vlog format. And I think he did it for about a year, which is pretty amazing. People who put like daily content out there, it's like I can barely keep up just like watching, even if it was one guy, but to sit through that content. And then the other thought that crossed my mind too is, being over a year, working remotely from the pandemic, our lives have definitely changed. The way that we interact with people has changed, right? So I observed, people are definitely spending more time, consuming content, because they're, at least when everyone was from home, right? There's less time spent in traffic. But we're definitely looking for ways to connect with people because we don't have that in the physical sense, as we would in our workplaces. So, and I found myself, watching, some content creators, like friends that I've made. And it wasn't because I was necessarily looking for specific content or review. It's just people that I enjoyed interacting with, whether it be through a chat, texting or direct messaging, whatever the platforms were. We just, kind of vibe and watching, these videos, it feels like I'm hanging out, so if anything that resonates with me is if it gives me that feeling where I'm kind of hanging out with a buddy or old college buddy, that totally resonates with me, and you definitely, emulate that. I definitely get that from, like with Shave 326 and a handful of others. But as far as me wanting, because dude, there is just too much out there. It's like I don't know I know in the last episode, you talked about how exhausting it is just on the social media platforms, right? Just for
With
one
Sean, yeah.
post content, and then to reply to it, that's a whole nother thing, right? But even just keeping up with what's out there is like, where do people find the time? It just blows my mind. So I kind of keep it in the back vibe of kind of hanging out with my friends. Like, I will watch it. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, John, about like the landscape for content creation in the shaving traditional shaving sphere. But at least I just want to share like what I look for and what I enjoy watching.
Oh yeah, totally.
You want to keep it within this just YouTube for now, but yeah, it's not like before. I think early on, right, like wanting to learn as much as I could about the hobby, because we learned so much off of YouTube, right? So of course, I watched a bunch of the the most popular ones. Of course, you had Kevy shaves, Nick shaves, and then Shave Nation, right? All those videos we would watch that. But as I actually started to do it, I didn't find myself looking for instructions anymore, and it
Right.
transitioned to looking at reviews, and now it's transitioned to I hope it doesn't sound like kind of weird, but it's almost like socializing, right? So because for myself in my household, we have been fairly conservative, with me probably being the most conservative. I only leave if I have to for absolute essential things. So I've eaten out in a restaurant like maybe once or twice for the entire pandemic, and if I can eat outdoors, that's my preference. But if not, I'm doing takeout, and I'm not going off. I don't have to. So my interaction has been social interaction outside of my own family and work during the work time and working remotely. So we're doing virtual office is through through the social media and different platforms. So and YouTube is kind of like an extension of that, except there's no dialogue, but it still feels like I'm hanging out. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. Especially, yeah, I think framing in light of the pandemic. Thank you for. That's kind of I think where I had that in the back of my mind. How has it changed? Because I will tell you, definitely there's a spike of engagement during that time, and it definitely gave me momentum to want to create more because more people were. There are more eyes on it. There are more comments on it, and that certainly has changed now too as things have reopened, people wanting to go back to normal as well. So I just want to just kind of to summarize what you said though. It does sound like it still winds up being personality driven, and in this case, someone you would want to hang out with, right? Or that you trust in their opinions. It still kind of goes back to that, right? Like the innate charisma of a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Gerard, I mean, feel free to give your own spin on it or attack attack that question from however you like.
Yeah. So I guess like I was thinking about um, being first introduced into, I guess, a community, as it is, and the reason I say a community is because there's several different ones. I think that people belong to, whether it's on the forums, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on something else. Maybe it's just Instagram, right? Maybe what have you. And so, yeah, before I'd been wet shaving for a long time, but yeah, I was just using, and I mentioned this before, I was just using like Paraso Green, a Merkur 23C, and just like some random garbage brush, I think from Amazon or whatever. But a friend who was quite involved invited me to like a lunch or like basically a meetup that was in town in where I lived, and I said sure, why not? There's no problem there. And then that's where I ended up meeting some people. I met Ken Surfs there, another YouTuber who's like just grown immensely, in probably the past 5 years as far as his, shaves go. I remember meeting, he's no longer in Wetshaving, but Rob, he was with Local Gent, right? And then ended up meeting some other people. And I think I want to say, yeah, it was a few years ago. We haven't had him on. We should probably. We should make a note of this. But I had met Ron from Chiseled Face. He had a brick and mortar store out here in California for a bit. And so I went over there, visited him, spoke with him, a few times. And again, just kind of got into it. And then he ended up having to leave California. And I think that's where I got kind of picked up for the Daily Shave series with West Coast Shaving. And that's where I kind of came across you, John, and some of the others. And yeah, so it's a very, I was kind of like introduced into it then. And, but I didn't look up stuff on YouTube. I didn't look up tutorials. I didn't look up reviews. I was perfectly happy using, like Parasso, like anyone else, because it was cheaper than using a cartridge. And so with that, my introduction into, various shave groups, and for, I'm most active on Reddit, and it's only because I was active on Reddit in non-wet shaving groups. I was over there quite often. But I guess from the eyes of a content creator, a lot of the stuff I consume outside of wet shaving is going to be on, I would say, primarily YouTube and Instagram. Definitely, I said it before that we feast with our eyes first, so the visual element is really important. I would follow a lot of tech YouTubers, one of which being MKBHD. He does primarily like cell phones, computers, stuff like that. And he was someone that I've been watching since he was in college. He's, and whatnot. And so it's been really kind of interesting to follow his journey as a content creator with product reviews and whatnot. And I kind of just like his, I guess, I don't want to say his approach, but he has like he has his kind of script on how he presents the product, right? And so it's very easy for me, as a consumer, to digest and get to the end of it relatively quickly. It's not, and I don't know if there's anyone. I mean, you do it sometimes, John, but you also do like the live shaves as well, like a lot, or just the shave of the days as well with, soaps and whatnot. Because I think, is there a demand for doing artisanal, like wet shaving product reviews without shaving with it on camera at all? Right? So let's say we'll just use a soap, okay? Like you can look at something maybe like packaging, okay? Is it a typical plastic tub? Is it a glass jar? Is it something unique? Is it a tin, right? How's the artwork? Is it appealing to you? Does it speak to you? Anything like that? Maybe is it, vegan? Is it tallow based? Or is there different, super fats in there? Is that something that you're, that as a consumer you're interested in? Obviously, scent strength. Off the tub, I find that off the tub and when lathered are two very different things. Is that something that's along your impression as well? And then maybe overall thoughts. And those are like 5 steps or 5, I guess 5 points that you can probably do content on without ever having to shave on camera. And would that be something that people would end up clicking on? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? And, there's an idea. Like if it doesn't work out, don't blame me. Okay. But like I just use I use MKBHD as one because he makes content for showcasing products itself. I also watch I enjoy travel YouTubers, food YouTubers, and stuff like that. But that's a little bit different, like that's almost like a shave of the day thing where like you're going with them along on their journey, maybe seeing whatever they're seeing. And, maybe at the end, that's a place you want to visit. It's not a purchase that you can easily get for yourself, like we have in our hobby. So, and I don't know. I don't know where the future as far as content creation in this goes. I think that you're beginning to see some overlap with other hobbies, such as the fragrance community and whatnot. A lot of us have been getting into fragrances as well. And the one that comes to mind was the recent release from Gentleman's Knot and Zaharoff with the is it TLTG what was the name? That was one of them. It was what was the actual Z Creators or Z?
Oh yeah, a Z Creator series.
Yeah, Z Creator series, right? So having 3 YouTubers have, kind of having a feature fragrance and that being released in a fragrance form, but as well as a wet shaving form, via Gentleman's Nod. Yeah, that's kind of appealing to me. I may not like all of those, but that's probably where it's going to go, I think. And I think it's just going to be more products, out there, more options for a lot of people. But it's going to take collaborations like that, I think, to continue, getting more people involved in the hobby.
Yeah, I think one thing you mentioned, and it is something I've experimented with, and I am self-conscious of it, where it's what if you just take the bare bones and not the bare bones, but you really just cut it down to the nitty-gritty of a review, right? Make it a review. And part of it's knowing what the audience wants. And I would say right now my take on it is it's hard to get that personality component in a very concise review style format. But then again, if you have varied content, you can get that in. Like a podcast might be a good way to show your personality off in the long form, so we got that going on here. And frankly, I rather gather my thoughts and even do an outline or script, and read over footage of a shave. I think there's still something to be said, and Gerard, you hit upon this. Like people, if you're going to talk about slickness, how a thing, the soap working, you need to show at least a clip of it, right? At least like sped up or going on in the back. But other times, when sometimes I play around with speeding up footage and stuff. Some people rather just see it in full, even if there's no talking. They just want to see the shave, which I don't know. I think that's something else. Like the hair removal, like guys like beard offs are a thing, and those do spectacularly well. If you're a budding, shaving YouTuber and you have a huge beard and you record the removal of it, you're gonna get yourself tons of new subs, and you can use that momentum and really get something going for yourself. Being a Taiwanese American guy, I can let that beard growth go for months, and it will not look anywhere near as impressive as that. I think I saw I don't know if you guys saw Smiles for Miles, who turns brushes. He has this known for this like kind of really full gray Santa Claus type beard. He shaved it all off. on an Instagram that. Live. So I was like, wow.
Went from like ZZ Top, right, to all clean shaven.
To just to clean shaven. And I think he said he hasn't not had that beard, right, or some sort of facial hair for years. So
I just thought of something, and maybe I don't know. This is something for Discord or whatever. November is quickly approaching, and I know that we talked about our Halloween shave, but instead of No Shave November, we should like add something on top of it and maybe get some Rogaine for our face and see if we can grow a full beard
for us Asian stock.
You know, and here's the thing, right? Like, you know, I know some Asians like with like wicked beards, but they are very much the minority. They are the exception and not the rule. And so, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do this for myself and then get back to you guys, you know, on it. You know, I'll find, you know, I've never looked up if you can just get Rogaine for your face and see if that works. But all of a sudden I'll wake up with this, you know, Grizzly Adams, you know, just a full beard. And I don't think my wife likes like too much facial hair. So like that may not last. But we'll see. I'll do some research and get back to you guys. I'll do it for the podcast. I'll do it for the clicks. Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, you kind of talked, Gerard. You talked about, you know, generally, you know, how your involvement in the community was basically started through mainly Reddit, right?
Well, not yes, and in the community.
Or is it more in person? You're talking about?
Yeah, it was more in person. Yeah, like online community. Like it was just very easy to go on Reddit because I was already on there.
Right.
But you know, like I do have, you know, I think I have some profiles around. I'm on Facebook as well in a couple of groups. But I can't say I'm particularly like, you know, super active in them. And I have profiles since, you know, doing the podcast on some of the forums, but I don't go on there at all. And it's not a knock to them. It's just, I think like everyone else, you know, we have a spending account when it comes to time in the day, and I just don't have the time to go everywhere and do everything and watch everyone and watch everything out there.
Right.
That might be something worth, Arvin, because I know you want to touch upon that too. It's not, you know, both the community aspect, but also just other platforms. Were there other? Because I know I started us off on YouTube, but were there other platforms or medium that you wanted to tackle that were kind of like prominent to your wet shaving journey, or even your current engagement of, you know, in the wet shaving spaces?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, my entry into, well, just the traditional shaving hobby, you know, was born from, you know, without getting into my full shave journey, it was all lurking. And then my business partner at the time got into traditional shaving, and he actually started before. The thing is, I was researching it for quite a few years, just through the forums. It just fascinated me. I think it was like the Art of Manliness blog. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one, but it just fascinated me because I remember just kind of getting those nostalgic feels, remembering my grandpa's razors. But my business partner at the time, he actually got a straight razor, and yeah, and it was just kind of fascinating to see, you know, all of the you know, the different hardware he had laid out. He had his strop, and then, you know, of course he had his razor, he had his brush, and then that brush actually, and that was the only interaction that I had with anybody, because like nobody was into it. I didn't talk to anybody in the forum. So that was like my one person who kind of had that overlapping interest with me. And then, you know, that was it. And then, you know, fast forward several years, you know, I finally, you know, purchased my first, you know, pieces of hardware, and that friend of mine who started with the straight razor shaves, he piffed me his Pure Badger brush Art of Shaving. It was a total piece of crap, but I had that, and I was using that to make my lathers, still using cartridge razor, but I had soap, you know, it was Parasso, and that was it, you know. And my whole experience early was just lurking and reading information, you know, not feeling compelled to talk to anybody, because I got everything I needed. I just needed information, you know, and I watched videos.
Right.
But it wasn't, I got introduced into the artisanal, you know, space for, you know, for both hardware and software. I just happened to stumble on one of the forums. There's a smaller group. It was, I'm not going to name which one it was, but it was a very small group. It was from one of the artisans. Is a private forum, And that's actually where I met, quite a few people in the community, including Nova Shaves. So it was a really, really small community. I really enjoyed that aspect. There was about the similar numbers to what we have in the Lather Talk Discord. So it was like 100, just a little bit above 100 plus or so, maybe a couple hundred. But as far as active members, engaged members, there was a handful at most. Probably I want to say 20 to 30 regulars would consistently either engage in dialogue or actually post their shave of the days and talk about stuff they're excited about. And it was nice because I actually got to know the guys in the group, and there's a few ladies too, but mostly guys. And it was really, really neat to have this camaraderie with a bunch of strangers, which is kind of creepy when you think about it, right? It's like, here we are, sharing of ourselves, nothing personal, but engage in this hobby, people we would have never met in real life, but here we are just enjoying talking about our shared passion and talking with all these people. And then that forum actually ended up shutting down. The platform closed. It was on Google Plus. They tried migrating to another platform, and it just wasn't the same. And then from that point, that's where I jumped ship altogether. I mean, they're still around, but I went to Instagram, and I didn't understand, why would you want to post your photos? I mean, even outside of shaving, why would you want to post it for people that you don't know? Like, what's the point of that? That's kind of weird. It's like, people how are they going to find you? I kind of had an understanding of how it works, right? The whole hashtag thing and, from Twitter and whatnot. But, it's like, for me, my social media interaction has always been with people I know, never to meet new people. It's just within my comfort zone in the circles of people that I already know, not to expand that, just within my comfort zone. So it took me a little bit to wrap my head around that. But interestingly, just like in that small forum, I got to meet, people that vibed with quite a handful of them. And in some cases, maybe I had an exchange through one of the BSTs on the multiple platforms, and then I recognized them on Instagram, and then we started chatting. And that be very much the case with me and you, John, because I bought something from you.
Yep.
And then we ended up kind of chatting here and there, and we became friends over the span of a couple of years. But other than that, it's like, it's opportunity. I mean, if you're open to it, to meeting people, again, people you wouldn't have met in otherwise in the real world. I mean, it's neat, and it kind of blows my mind sometimes, because these are people that I actually enjoy in dialogue in to varying degrees. With you and Gerard, we've become friends, and we've talked about so many things about our lives outside of shaving. And
Sure.
I'm really, really blessed to have met you both. But even within the hobby, it's like, again, meeting people from all over the world, all over United States. And and I find that within at least Instagram, talking about YouTube being somewhat repetitive and kind of cyclical, that happens within, well, I think each of the communities, right? It's kind of like a rinse and repeat of the same, right? Even just going through the shave of the day photos, what happens? You post, you're either pimping your wares or flexing whatever you got, right? And you get pretty much the same guys that will respond or comment on your posts. And it's more or less, I mean, without getting into what's said, it's kind of like the same kind of dialogue, and it's great that to see that kind of support and interaction. But it kind of made me think about it, because it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy the process. I enjoy doing shave of the days because it combines three aspects of things that I love: photography, obviously the traditional shaving hobby, and writing. The microblogging format. It's really cathartic. Again, just I came from a creative background. One of my former former lives in my career path. So I definitely miss, that creative process, and, doing these shave the days scratches that itch for me. And on top of that, I get to interact with the, cool bunch of cool people. But, after doing it, for, a couple of years, that gets, repetitive and monotonous. Is like, I stop and question, why am I doing this? It's like, am I doing it for the likes? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Is it the kind of interaction? The novelty is kind of wearing off. It's like, where does it go from here? And I found myself wanting to have and engage in, dialogue with more purpose and more meaning. And which is why when you guys invited me early on, to the Discord, I was like, this is an interesting concept. Going on a Discord for for shaving, how's that going to be? Real time chat. It's like, okay, we'll see how it is. But to answer that, or kind of go over that question I had, why am I doing this? I was like, this takes so much of my time. And then it's a creative exercise, it's a creative outlet. But now that I'm looking at this, talking about management of time, as you said, Gerard, it's like, man, I'm putting a lot of time and energy, and me being the kind of person that I am, it's like, I like to put a lot of like production value into what I do. I don't like just taking a snap and posting it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, but just for me personally, it's this whole process, of the photography aspect, the writing aspect, and then the interaction aspect. And it's again, how I during these strange times, was able to interact with people, to kind of fulfill that, social interaction. But now, after doing it, so many times, it's where it's repetitive. It's like, yeah, I'm looking for more than just rinse and repeat of the same. Even if I'm trying new techniques and compositions, for the photography aspect, it's still kind of the same thing over and over. And which is what leads me to where I've chosen to spend most of my time now. It's a lot more dynamic, and I think for what I'm looking for within the hobby, within the Discord, it definitely satisfies that. It reminds me a lot of my early beginnings. And not that I don't like interacting with a bunch of people, with so many people on Instagram, but it allows me to focus my time and my energy with this kind of select group of people. And it just so happens that there are quite a few intelligent and funny members that really enjoy interacting with. So I don't spend as much time as I used to on the other platforms, YouTube and Instagram. I'm still there here and there, but nowadays, just for sharing content and getting feedback or asking questions, the Discord format, I think, is really conducive to tick a lot of the boxes of what I'm looking for. Like kind of a small intimate group. You don't get lost in the mix. Also, accessibility to not all the vendors come through, but there are a few artisans that hang out with us too. So that's pretty neat too. And so as far as interaction and consumption, where and how I'm looking to spend my time now, I'm really trying to manage that a lot better and be a lot more selective with where I place that time and energy. And definitely want to kind of like with our friends and the people we want to invest our time with, because there's there's not enough time in the day. I really wish there was. So really have to be selective with that. So definitely spending a lot more time ever since it shifted a lot ever since the Lather Talk Discord happened. I'm spending definitely less time away from the other platforms for sure.
Well, thanks for. I mean, I think what we started talking about in the content creation space really morphed into how we engage with the Wetshaving community, which is all well and good, because I think I know from my journey, it's very similar to you, in which at certain parts of this journey, that content creation part was much more, it was kind of driving it a little bit. And for sure through this podcast, through making videos and stuff like that, I've definitely come across people who I normally wouldn't have interacted with. But I don't know, just like what you mentioned, your experience on Instagram totally resonated with me, because for any platform where I really made a play or wanted to put more stuff, something of me out there, it was Instagram. And so while I liked it, where I was learning basic like product photography kind of stuff, plus having fun with it and getting exposed to, and this is probably like 4 years ago by now. And this is before I ever did videos, was started on Instagram. And for sure, it was Instagram 3 to 4 years ago was a different place than it is now. It didn't have Instagram Live, which actually is a really nice way to interact with whoever's doing the live as well as people watching. That actually, I think, really helps. But it can be a pretty lonely place too, because it's in the comments you're not necessarily, for the most part, not having those kind of back and forths. It can happen, but I think most of the times it's like you might, I'm just thinking how I started talking with Gerard. It's like I like what you're doing. We're both doing some videos for West Coast Shaving as well. And also one part we haven't really touched upon, and I hope to touch upon this more in the future, is there aren't a lot of Asian American creators out there, content creators. And so it's like, this is when I wish I had video, but it's like one of those things where you see someone like down the street or across the street and do the little like head nod. So I definitely head nodded Gerard and slid into his DMs. And
very much so. And I'm just like, new phone, who dis?
and probably with like Arvin too, but and I touch upon that because that is something I really would like to. We don't have time to do that today, but it's that whole representation in media, and as Asian American in media, there's more happening, especially from like even just 5-10 years ago. But I think there's something there. It's a not to toot our own horn, but we have a different perspective on things. Even just like we're talking about like a scent or a fragrance, which we talk about a lot. The things that trigger it, right? Like the food smells, the scent memories, they're going to have different associations. And I know that when I talk about like, oh, this reminds me of a certain tea I had at dim sum with extended family for this celebration. It's like, that's not going to hit the same way for everyone out there. In fact, it's going to hit very small percentage, but that small percentage, it really, you know what I mean? Like it cuts into something to the core. And when I'm watching in other genres, like whether it be fragrance or cooking or I don't know, whatever random YouTube stuff I watch, there's something when someone's making that content that looks like me and has some similar touchstones in their history, it hits a little different. So that's been rattling, to share with you guys, but to share with listeners too. That's been something I want to talk about more. And I know it's not necessarily something that's interesting to everyone, but it is no doubt a part, I think, of our journey here with the podcast and even how we engage with the Wetshaving community. So I know that's something, and Arvin, even Arvin, I know we've talked about a little bit here and there. So we might have to have you on again there to share your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure, man.
on that subject. But yeah, but thank you so much though. Just I just really do enjoy how you shared kind of like just that little bit of history and how it kind of went from different formats, because groups come and go, like you said, like Google Plus, that whole think of it, like a whole platform shut down, and it's sometimes like the community, that community really shifts and doesn't quite look the same, or doesn't even quite survive that move. But at least I know there are other places where you can kind of pick up the pieces and you kind of find your way. So all that being said, I'm really glad to have your friendship, Arvin, and to have kind of you looking out for our little Discord community, but also just your grander place in the Wetshaving community. Because if you guys don't know, if you've never asked Arvin a question, about like a razor or a soap, he's gonna give, he's gonna do his research and give you a very well thought out, thoughtful, insightful answer. So you definitely, I think you've brought that to today's episode as well. So thank you so much, Arvin.
You're welcome. Or I'm not sure if I should be apologizing, but yes, I am verbose to a fault. I'm working on it, but yeah,
in depth is what I said.
it's in it's an honor, really, to be in the company of you both. Really have a lot of respect for what you guys do within your own rights. I was like, I've seen through your content creations, both on YouTube and on Instagram, and it's really been a joy and a privilege to get to know you both and interact on the level that we've gotten to, both in the social media space and behind the scenes in private. But that's exactly what I'm talking about, and just in general, when we kind of tend to compartmentalize our lives, right? We try and separate things for various reasons, whereas for me, it's like I'm trying to turn on its head, where there's definitely some spaces and times you want to separate, but at the same time I'm trying to make it so that it's more consistent and universal for simplicity's sakes. So much in the same way, the the whole reason why we got into, besides being fascinated with shiny things, vintage and new, and smells, is it's the philosophy behind it, right? It's the approach behind traditional wet shaving, where we take something that's typically a chore, right, or something we don't necessarily look forward to, right, and somehow it turned into a gourmet experience, right? And much in the same way, the approach that I have with just people in general, kind of approaching it the same way. I don't know if I made if I was able to successfully bridge what I'm trying to say with my point, but rather than separate my lives, just kind of turn it into the people I meet and interact with within the hobby, treat it and pursue genuine, sincere interaction, and it really is. I don't know how to say it. It's like, I would say satisfying, but I really do enjoy it, and really think of you guys as like my friends, and my brothers, and again, just really blessed and thankful and honored, to that you guys include me in your company, be part of the team on the Discord, and to have me as a on this episode. So thank you both.
Of course, definitely, it's our pleasure. And as we're winding things down, I just want to give some space so you can kind of give your plugs. Arvin, where can people find you posting things? And we obviously mentioned the Lather Talk Discord, where all three of us can be found, but any other platforms or spaces that you'd like to give a plug to?
Well, I'm going to be a total Lather Talk Discord fanboy, and I only post there. So that's it. No kidding. So I primarily, I'm on different forums too, but I'm most active on Instagram, and my username is RocketVin, ROKITVIN. And you did get it right live. It is RocketVin, as in the second half of my name, Arvin. So my personal is actually Rocket Arv, and my shaving is Rocket Vin. But yeah, I have not posted anything to my personal Instagram for about maybe 5 or 6 years. I want to maybe 3 years.
Wow.
3 years. I want to say thereabouts. Anyway, yeah, Instagram, Rocket Vin.
All right, and we'll be sure to also post that in the show notes as well, if you guys want to check out. Again, Arvin's very what's the word I'm looking for? Very intentional about the content that you produce, and so just keep at it, whether it be photography. I know you're a man of many talents, so definitely keep us aware of any projects coming up, in the near future,
For sure.
Yeah. And we definitely would love to have you on again.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, this is fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Arvin. Gerard, still there? You still with us, buddy?
Yes, yes, I'm here. You know, it's harder just to stay quiet than it is, if anything. But no, I am still here.
Any
I should have been like, new phone, who dis?
I'm sorry. Like any last things that you want to plug or mention or anything like that?
No. Instagram, Hey Gerard Shaves. Come on the Discord. Check things out. It's not that bad. I promise. There's an ignore function if you get sick of listening to me or anything like that. So feel free to use it. I won't be hurt because I won't know about it anyway. But yeah, nice. Other than that, we'll see you guys. I don't know. Like we'll see everyone after Halloween and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Gerard. And lastly, for me, you guys can find me on all the things at Latherhog. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and wherever. I'm Latherhog. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. And we hope to see you real soon. Take care now. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Lather Talk. We also want to say thank you to our friend Arvin for joining us and just having such a great time chatting together. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you can help us out in a few ways. First off, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving us a 5-star review, as this will help us with the algorithm and getting the show suggested to your fellow wet shavers and those interested in this little area and hobby of ours. Second, if you're watching us over on YouTube, please be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. We also have some Lather Talk merchandise up on our Etsy page. And of course, there is the previously mentioned Patreon. You can find links for both of those over at www.lathertalk.com. Again, that's www.lathertalk.com. We hope you enjoyed today's show and that you'll join us for the next episode.